Welcome to Love Lies Chronicles.
I never thought it would happen to me. Betrayal is something you hear about. Stories from friends, cautionary tales from older men at bars, late-night social media posts about heartbreak and revenge. But it's never supposed to be your story. Yet, there I was, standing in the doorway of my own home, staring at a reality I hadn't been prepared for. It started with a gut feeling. You know the kind, the quiet whisper in the back of your mind that tells you something isn't right. The unanswered texts, the sudden secrecy with her phone, the way she had started dressing up more, going out more, yet touching me less and less. I ignored it for weeks, told myself I was imagining things. After all, we had been together for 6 years, married for 3. We weren't perfect, but we had built a life together. She wouldn't throw that away, would she? Then came the moment that shattered any illusions I had left. I was supposed to be working late. She thought I was at the office. But plans changed. My boss let us go home early after a power outage shut down our systems. So, I came home, expecting to surprise her. Maybe we'd have dinner. Maybe we'd talk. Maybe, just maybe, I'd feel wanted again. Instead, I opened the door to moaning. The sound hit me like a bullet. My entire body went still. My heartbeat pounded in my ears as I prayed to be wrong. Maybe it was the TV. Maybe she was, I don't know, watching something inappropriate. But then I heard his voice. A man's voice. Deep, confident, saying things to my wife, that she used to say to me. I moved before I could stop myself. Walked down the hall, heart hammering in my chest. My breath was shallow, my fingers curled into fists. I reached the bedroom. The door was open just enough. I saw her first, back arched, nails digging into a man's shoulders. She was smiling, laughing, enjoying it. Then, as if the universe wanted to rub salt into my wound, she turned her head slightly, giving me a perfect view of her face, the same face that used to look at me like that. And then I saw him, a man I had never seen before, a stranger. He didn't notice me, too focused on what he was doing to my wife in my bed. Everything in me screamed to explode, to grab him, rip him away from her, to yell, to break something, to break him. But I didn't. I stood there, rooted in place, watching my marriage end. Then, slowly, I turned and walked out. I didn't slam the door. I didn't make a sound. I just left. Because at that moment, I realized something terrifying. She wasn't even thinking about me. She wasn't cheating out of guilt. There was no hesitation, no regret on her face. She was comfortable with another man. Like I was never in the picture at all. That's what broke me. Not just the sex, but the casualness of it. The way she had erased me so easily. I walked to my car, sat inside, and stared at the steering wheel, my hands gripping it so tightly my knuckles turned white. My breathing was ragged, but no tears came. I wanted to cry. I wanted to feel something other than this hollow, numbing emptiness. But there was nothing. Just silence. And then, my phone vibrated in my pocket. A message from her. Hey babe, you still working late? I miss you. I laughed. A cold, humorless laugh that felt like shards of glass in my throat. She had texted me while she was in bed with another man. That's when it all clicked. This wasn't an accident. It wasn't a mistake. It was who she was now, and I had been too blind to see it. I didn't go back inside that night. Instead, I drove. No destination. Just miles of road under my tires, and the same thoughts looping in my head like a broken record. She cheated. She knew she was cheating. And yet, she still texted me like nothing was wrong. At some point, I parked at a gas station, staring blankly at the neon signs. The numbness was starting to wear off, replaced by something else, rage. I wanted answers. I deserved answers. So, after hours of letting my mind twist itself into knots, I did the only thing that made sense at the time. I went home. The house was quiet when I walked in. Too quiet. For a split second, I wondered if maybe she had left, if she had gone off with him, thinking she wouldn't have to face me. But then I heard movement in the kitchen. I walked in to find her standing by the counter, casually making herself a cup of tea like she hadn't just destroyed our marriage hours ago. She looked up when she saw me, blinking in mild surprise. Mild surprise. Not guilt. Not panic. Not even an ounce of shame. Oh, she said, like I had just come home from work. You're back. I felt my teeth grind together. My hands curled into fists. She was acting normal, like I hadn't just seen her tangled up with another man. Like nothing had happened. I clenched my jaw so tightly I thought it might snap before I finally forced out the words. Who the hell was he? She exhaled loudly, like I had just asked her something inconvenient. Then she rolled her eyes. That's when I knew. She wasn't even sorry. Instead of answering, she turned her back to me, stirring her tea with deliberate slowness. You're overreacting, she muttered. Overreacting. A bitter laugh clawed its way up my throat. Overreacting? I walked in on you screwing another guy in our bed, and I'm overreacting? My voice was shaking, and I wasn't sure if it was from anger or disbelief. She set her spoon down with a small clink before finally turning to face me, her expression unreadable. I didn't mean for you to see that. That's all she said. Not I'm sorry. Not it was a mistake. Not even let me explain. Just I didn't mean for you to see that. Like the real problem wasn't the fact that she betrayed me. It was just that I had found out about it. Something inside me snapped. I slammed my hand down on the counter so hard the teacup rattled. Who the hell is he? I demanded again. She sighed, like I was exhausting her. Just someone I've been seeing. I felt my whole body go cold. Someone she's been seeing. Not a one-time mistake. Not a drunken accident. She had a whole affair behind my back. I swallowed, my throat tight. How long? She hesitated. That pause was enough. 6 months, she admitted. 6 months. I staggered back like she had physically hit me. She didn't even try to deny it. I shook my head, laughing bitterly. Jesus Christ. Look, she started, her tone clipped. I didn't plan on telling you like this. I've been feeling disconnected from you for a while, okay? It's like we're roommates, not a couple. Roommates. She wasn't just cheating. She had already mentally left this marriage long before she actually slept with someone else. And she was blaming me for it. Like it was my fault she had spread her legs for another man. I let out a shaky breath, gripping the edge of the counter. So that's your excuse? You felt disconnected, so you decided to have an affair? She had the audacity to shrug. I needed something you weren't giving me, she said simply. Like that was supposed to make it okay. Something inside me, the part that still wanted to believe there was a chance to fix this, died in that moment. I had been exhausted from work, killing myself to provide for both of us. I had done everything I could to make her happy. I had trusted her. And in return, she had lied to my face for half a year and then had the nerve to act like I was the problem. I let out a hollow laugh, shaking my head. You really don't feel guilty, do you? Her expression flickered. For just a second, I thought I saw something. Maybe guilt, maybe hesitation. But then, just as quickly, she shut it down. I mean, she exhaled, looking away. I didn't want to hurt you, but you did. I cut in, voice low. She had the nerve to look annoyed at my interruption. You're making this bigger than it needs to be. I blinked at her. Are you serious? She crossed her arms. Look, I get that you're mad, but what do you want me to say? That I regret it? Because I don't. She didn't regret it. I was staring at a stranger. A selfish, cold, unrecognizable stranger. I still love you, she said suddenly, her voice softer. I scoffed. No, you don't. Her jaw tightened. Yes, I do. But I also, she hesitated. I don't want to lose what we have. What we have. I ran a hand down my face, laughing in disbelief. What exactly do we have, huh? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you have a husband and a side piece. And I have, what? Lies. She frowned. Don't be dramatic. That was it. That was the moment I knew. She wasn't taking this seriously. She thought I'd get mad, yell, maybe even beg for her to stay faithful. She thought I'd accept it. But she didn't think I'd actually leave. And that's where she fucked up. I straightened up, my entire body suddenly calm. Done. I was just done. Her eyes flickered with unease as she finally noticed the shift in me. Look, I don't want to fight about this. I just need time to figure things out. I grabbed my keys. Her expression shifted to confusion. Where are you going? I didn't answer. Because I knew exactly where this was heading. She thought she had options. She thought I was too invested, too in love, too weak to walk away. But she was wrong. She had no idea what was coming next. And I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of seeing it play out. I didn't leave that night. Not yet. Instead, I spent the next few days watching her. Not in a creepy, obsessive way. No, I was watching to confirm what I already knew. That she didn't actually believe there would be consequences. At first, she acted like nothing had changed. She still did her usual morning routine, scrolling through her phone while sipping coffee, barely acknowledging my presence. She still asked me to pick up groceries on my way home from work. She still complained about minor inconveniences, like the Wi-Fi lagging or the garbage not being taken out. She wasn't worried. She wasn't remorseful. She wasn't scared of losing me. Because in her mind, she had already won. She thought my anger was temporary, that I'd calm down, get over it, and eventually accept things the way she wanted. She truly believed she had me wrapped around her finger. And for a long time, maybe she had. I had spent years putting her first, sacrificing my time, my energy, and even my own happiness just to keep our marriage afloat. I had been the one carrying the weight while she took everything for granted. But now, I saw everything clearly. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't desperate to fix things. I was angry, not just at her, but at myself, for letting her use me, for ignoring all the signs, for loving someone who never really loved me back. The resentment started as a slow burn, a simmering heat beneath my skin. But the more I observed her, the more I realized just how little she respected me. And that slow burn turned into a fucking wildfire. 3 days after our conversation in the kitchen, she made a bold move. I had just gotten home from work, exhausted as usual. I dropped my bag by the door, loosened my tie, and walked into the kitchen, only to find her setting the table for two. At first, I thought it was some kind of peace offering. Maybe, just maybe, she had realized how badly she fucked up. But then I saw the wine bottle, and the lingerie beneath her silk robe, and the way she gave me a small, knowing smile. Like she thought she could seduce away the problem. Like she actually believed that I'd forget about the past 6 months just because she decided to play the role of a devoted wife for an evening. I stood in the doorway, arms crossed, staring at her. She tilted her head, feigning innocence. What is this? I asked, voice flat. She gave a small shrug. Just a nice dinner. I thought we could. I don't know. Reconnect. Re-fucking connect. I let out a humorless chuckle, shaking my head. So let me get this straight. You spent half a year fucking another guy. You told me you don't regret it. And now you think a candle at dinner and some overpriced wine is going to make it all okay? Her lips pressed into a thin line. I never said I don't regret it. Yeah, you did. She sighed, rubbing her temples like I was the one being difficult. I just think you're blowing this out of proportion, she muttered. I felt something snap inside me. Blowing this out of proportion. My jaw clenched so tightly it hurt. She still didn't get it. She still thought this was just a rough patch. A stupid argument. She didn't understand that she had completely destroyed everything we had. And honestly, I didn't think she ever would. For the first time in our entire relationship, I realized something terrifying. She wasn't capable of loving me the way I had loved her. She never had been. She just liked having me around. She liked the stability I gave her. The comfort. The security. But real love? No. If she had ever truly loved me, she wouldn't have done what she did. She wouldn't have tried to justify it. She wouldn't have looked at me with boredom instead of remorse. She wouldn't have treated me like I was replaceable. I took a deep breath, shoving my hands into my pockets. Enjoy your dinner, I said, turning on my heel. Her smile faltered. Where are you going? Out. With who? She asked, her voice sharp. I glanced back at her, tilting my head. Why do you care? Her lips parted slightly, like the thought hadn't even crossed her mind. Because in her world, I wasn't allowed to move on. She was allowed to cheat. She was allowed to seek attention elsewhere. She was allowed to do whatever the hell she wanted. But I was supposed to stay, to forgive, to be grateful for whatever scraps of affection she decided to throw my way. I gave her one last look before I grabbed my keys and walked out the door, leaving her stunned and speechless for the first time since this entire mess began. That night, I didn't come home until well past midnight. And when I finally walked through the door, she was waiting. Sitting on the couch, arms crossed, jaw tight. She had been waiting up for me. Good. Let her wonder. Let her feel a fraction of what I had felt for the past 6 months. Where were you? She asked, voice laced with suspicion. I shrugged. Out. Her nostrils flared. With who? I smirked. Why does it matter? She let out a bitter laugh. You're being fucking petty. No, I said, stepping closer, lowering my voice. I'm just finally giving you the same effort you've been giving me. Her expression flickered, just for a second. She didn't like this. She didn't like the new me. The one who wasn't desperate for her validation. The one who wasn't trying to fix something that wasn't worth fixing. The one who was already halfway out the fucking door. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Because for the first time in our marriage, she was the one losing control. And I had never felt more at peace. Something inside her shifted after that night. She had spent months treating me like an afterthought, discarding me without hesitation. But the moment I stopped playing along, the moment I stopped chasing her, Stop trying to fix things, she felt it. The shift in power. And she hated it. The next morning, she was different. She got up earlier than usual, lingering in the kitchen when I made my coffee, watching me like she was expecting me to acknowledge her presence. I didn't. She tried small talk. Did you sleep okay? I didn't look up. Fine. I could feel her irritation, the way she shifted her weight, expecting me to throw her a lifeline, to ask how she slept, to keep the conversation going, to act like I still cared. But I didn't. Not anymore. She tried again. Where did you go last night? I took a sip of coffee, barely reacting. Out. Her fingers tightened around her mug. You were never the type to stay out late, she said, her tone laced with something new, unease. I finally glanced up at her, offering a slow shrug. Maybe I'm not who I used to be. That landed. For the first time since I had caught her cheating, I saw real panic flash across her face. Because she had never considered that. She had always assumed that I'd stay the same, that I'd wait for her, forgive her, and eventually give in. She never thought that I might just let go. Her attempts to reel me back and became more obvious as the days passed. She started sending me texts in the middle of the day, random little messages she hadn't bothered with in months. Thinking of you. Hope you're having a good day. Dinner tonight? Just us. I didn't respond. I watched as she went through every stage of panic. First, she played it cool, acting like she wasn't affected, like she wasn't bothered by my distance. Then, she turned to guilt-tripping, complaining that I was being childish, that I was giving up too easily. Then came the anger. One night, after another long day at work, I came home to find her pacing in the living room, arms crossed, her expression furious. We need to talk, she snapped the second I stepped inside. I dropped my keys on the counter, barely looking at her. About what? She scoffed. Seriously? You're just going to pretend everything's fine. I frowned, setting my bag down. I don't recall saying anything was fine. Her jaw clenched. Then what is this? She gestured between us. What are you doing? I stared at her for a long moment, taking in the frustration on her face, the way her eyes were darting, desperate, calculating. And then I finally said it. I'm leaving. Silence. For the first time in a long time, she looked stunned. Her lips parted slightly, her breath hitching. What? I'm done. My voice was calm. Steady. Final. She blinked, shaking her head like she hadn't heard me correctly. You're not serious. I exhaled, running a hand through my hair. You cheated on me for 6 months. You blamed me for it. You acted like I was the problem. And even after all of that, you expected me to just accept it. I met her eyes. I don't. And I won't. Her entire posture changed. She took a step closer, dropping the anger like a mask that no longer fit. Baby, she murmured, her voice suddenly soft, pleading. I held up a hand. Don't. Her lower lip trembled. We can fix this. I shook my head. No, we can't. She stared at me, her eyes wide with something I had never seen before. Fear. Because now, she finally understood. She thought she could cheat and get away with it. She thought I'd stay. No matter what. She thought she had control. But she didn't. Not anymore. I still love you, she whispered, her voice breaking. I let out a breath, shaking my head. No, you don't. Her face crumpled. Yes, I do. No, I repeated, stepping past her. You love the idea of me. You love the security I gave you. You love knowing that someone was always there, no matter how badly you treated them. I turned, meeting her gaze one last time. But you never loved me. Tears welled in her eyes. Her hands clenched at her sides. You're really leaving? I nodded. A tear slipped down her cheek. Where will you go? I shrugged. Anywhere but here. And with that, I grabbed my keys, walked out the door. And didn't look back. I didn't expect it to feel this easy. Walking out should have been harder. I should have felt conflicted, maybe even hesitant. But as I drove away from the home we once shared, with nothing but a duffel bag and my phone in the passenger seat, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Relief. For months, maybe even years, I had been drowning in a relationship that only existed in my head. She had moved on long before she physically cheated, and I had been too blind, too loyal, to see it. But now? Now I was free. And she? She was about to learn exactly what she had lost. It started with text messages. At first, they were simple. Casual, even. Where are you? Are you coming home? We need to talk. I ignored them all. Then came the calls. Dozens of them. One after the other, my phone vibrating nonstop. I turned it on silent. Then, an hour later, a new message. This isn't funny. Answer me. Funny? I almost laughed. She still didn't get it. She thought I was teaching her a lesson, punishing her for a few days just to make her feel bad. She thought I'd cool off and come crawling back, just like she expected me to. She had no idea that I was already gone. And that realization? It was going to hit her hard. 2 days passed. Then 3. I rented a small place across town, paid cash up front, and made sure nothing had my name on it. I changed my routines, switched grocery stores, took a different route to work, disappeared from her world entirely. By day 4, the messages changed. The anger set in. Wow, you're really doing this? So you're just abandoning everything? You're such a coward. There it was. She wasn't worried about losing me. She was furious that she no longer had control. I imagined her pacing in the kitchen, gripping her phone so tightly her knuckles turned white. For the first time, she wasn't calling the shots. She had cheated, and yet she was the one feeling betrayed. How poetic. By the end of the first week, the cracks started to show. It wasn't just me she lost. She lost the life I built for her. The rent? Due. The bills? Unpaid. The house? Too big, too empty, too expensive for just one person. And the best part? The man she cheated with? He wasn't there to save her. Because why would he be? He never wanted commitment. He wanted the thrill of sneaking around, the excitement of something forbidden. But now? Now, she was just another woman with baggage. And he had moved on. Her text shifted again. The arrogance was gone. The anger had faded. Now, she was pleading. I miss you. I made a mistake. Please, just talk to me. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Because she hadn't just hurt me. She had disrespected me. She had expected me to stay, no matter what she did. And when she realized she was wrong, when she saw that I wasn't coming back, her world collapsed. Just like she deserved. 2 weeks passed before she showed up at my job. I had been expecting it. I was in the parking lot, getting into my car, when I saw her standing there, arms wrapped around herself, looking pathetic. Her hair was messy, her makeup smudged. She looked exhausted. For the first time in years, she didn't look like the woman who always thought she was in control. She looked lost. I sighed, unlocking my car. Go home. Her eyes widened. That's it. I gave her a flat look. What else is there to say? Her voice cracked. I fucked up. I said nothing. She took a shaky breath, stepping closer. I didn't mean to hurt you. I scoffed. That's the thing. You didn't care if you hurt me. Tears welled in her eyes. I do care. I still love you. I tilted my head, studying her. She wasn't lying. She did love me, but not in the way I had loved her. She loved what I provided. The stability, the security. She loved having me as a backup plan. She didn't love me. I exhaled slowly, running a hand through my hair. I spent years trying to be enough for you. Her face crumpled. You were. I shook my head. No, I wasn't. Because if I was, you wouldn't have needed someone else. She reached for me. I took a step back. Her lip trembled. I can change. I let out a small, bitter laugh. No, you can't. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Because she knew I was right. She couldn't change. Not for me. Not for anyone. Her voice was barely a whisper. So that's it. I nodded. Yeah, that's it. She wiped at her tears, swallowing hard. I don't know what to do without you. I gave her one last look before getting into my car. That's not my problem anymore. And then, just like that, I drove away.
Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments, and do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.